I'll let them determine whether they should talk to Prince Andrew. I'd certainly be open to it, but it's their call, not mine.
Epstein's writing to himself about Bill Gates, presumably.
Look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls?
Every minute I spent with him, I regret and I apologize that I did that.
As you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein.
I will be sending, she said, fresh muffins down with Carina. You currently have 2 steaks left on the island. Would you like new ones? JD Vance unleashes on the incestuous elite that we've discovered in the files. He sat down with the Daily Mail and had this conversation, demanding now that Andrew, the prince over there in the UK, come in and testify, right? All of these people who were in the orbit, they're all on X. They're all saying, oh, no, I don't know it. Why don't we bring them in for depositions? Why don't we hold them under oath? Why don't we ask them questions? Why don't we investigate the financial connections? All of these people, of course, the focus is on the abuse of minors, but let's say there's no evidence of those. Cash. Epstein didn't traffic anybody to anybody other than himself, even though he had a multiple count indictment that was never brought. What about the financial component? Stack that on top of all of the abuse. They can't go after anybody for tax crimes or financial fraud or any of those things. JD Vance says enough. He ratcheted the pressure up on the prince to testify before U.S. lawmakers, which is a big deal, right? This is the VP saying, hey, your prince over there, UK, should come over here and answer questions about this. He gave a wide-ranging interview. He said, I saw Keir Starmer over there in the UK said something about this. I'm certainly open to it. He said the decision would be made by congressional Republicans. They can decide whether they want to talk to him. I'm open to it, but it's their call, not mine. Now, Andrew was told to leave the Royal Lodge on the grounds of Windsor Castle on Tuesday night, as the king became increasingly concerned by his allegations against him. VP said the files released on Friday showed there's a pretty incestuous nature of America's elites. It's true. They include photos that show Andrew crouched over a woman, touching her waist. The documents also included emails that Andrew was in frequent contact with Epstein for many years. Vance said the files exonerated Trump, said Trump threw him out of Mar-a-Lago because he's creepy. So there's Andrew doing the thing. Don't know if that's an adult woman or not, or what they're doing. But yeah, so that's him. There's Epstein with some others. Trump is very much outside the social circle. He knows a lot of these people. He certainly has similar wealth and power, but he was never really friendly with Epstein in a way that a lot of these other people are. He said, I think it just shows there's an incestuous nature to America's elites. So true. And it's pretty gross. And a lot of people, I think it reflects very poorly on them. Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, and others. Starmer also on Saturday said that Andrew should appear before U.S. lawmakers to explain everything he knows about Epstein. Anybody who's got information should be prepared to share that. You can't be victim-centered if you're not prepared to do that. They're not victim-centered at all. Andrew, who was seen driving and riding around Windsor, has not commented on the latest files. House can't subpoena him. He's obviously a foreign national. He was stripped of a bunch of his titles and was highly in the files, was all over the place. Here's a little bit of JD Vance from their exclusive interview on this disgusting story with our disgusting elites.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was also, there were some scandalous photos of him on the floor with a young woman. Should he testify in Capitol Hill?
I saw Keir Starmer said something about this, right? That he should go and testify. I mean, look, I'm certainly open to it. I think we let congressional Republicans determine whether he adds anything. I know that they're doing a very exhaustive investigation because the thing that people always, I think, forget or sometimes forget about the Epstein investigation is there was a Department of Justice investigation back, I think, in 2007.
Yep.
It was a very bad investigation. There are a lot of things that they didn't try to uncover, a lot of things they didn't try to look at. I would say because they were trying to protect a lot of their friends, but whatever the explanation is, we know that original investigation was very broken. So there's a lot of documents, a lot of information the Department of Justice never even had to begin with because of how broken that early investigation was. I think what the House GOP is trying to do is really exhaustively go through what were his relationships. Was he doing anything financially that was interesting? How did the guy make his money to begin with?
Right.
That's always been one of the craziest parts of this story is this guy came from nowhere and all of a sudden he's a math teacher and now he's like a billionaire. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I think the House GOP investigation is trying to get to the bottom of a lot of that stuff. I'll let them determine whether they should talk to Prince Andrew. I'd certainly be open to it, but it's their call, not mine.
All right, so that's JD Vance. And of course, a lot of fallout will continue on this one. And the incestuous elite include Bill Gates. And Melinda is now out responding to a lot of this. So is Bill Gates. There was a disgusting letter that apparently Epstein sent to himself. And it's a gross letter. Basically, it's out alleging it's from Epstein to Epstein himself. And he says, "Dear Bill," Epstein's writing to himself about Bill Gates, presumably, says, "I cannot believe that you've chosen to disregard our friendship developed over the last 6 years, Bill. I'm aware that accidents happen. It is how each of us has chosen to deal with this unfortunate event that has me dismayed beyond comprehension. You have decided to discharge me from my job. You had Larry, your PR person, tell me that I engaged in morally inappropriate behavior. You asked me to be the major actor in a cover-up so that you can maintain the reputation that you've worked so hard to achieve. You asked me to recommit to a confidentiality agreement, and you've categorically told me that we cannot have any ongoing business relationships in total disregard for my reputation. Now, I will have to diligently avoid the truth, tell people that Bill will not invest with me, and craft an answer that suits your needs, but you did agree to send you a letter of recommendation should a future employer ask for one. You have told me that Melinda insists, the wife, on me not communicating with you unless Larry is copied or present. Though you have consistently maintained that I have not done a better job and I was underpaid compared to my contribution, you then, beyond all sense of fairness and frankly decency, said that as generous compensation for keeping the Gates reputation intact, you would let me keep what we agreed I had already owned, the investment pieces, and give me 2 years severance similar to Christine Turner, another casualty. If the shoe was on the other foot, I would have said, Boris, this is not your fault. I confessed to Melinda, you didn't. It was in a moment of weakness, and I will do anything within my power to make it right for you. I have more money than anyone needs, and I assure you that I will structure something that you will not be penalized for my error. Lucky for me, I have enough money to provide to you, though it will not heal the injury. It will make you secure in your future. In addition, I will bend over backwards to make sure your next career is rewarding and on an upswing. I appreciate the fact that this drastically alters your plans, and I'm very aware that of the career path you gave up to join the foundation. I'm very sorry, but as I believe time heals all wounds, this will eventually pass. In that regard, I suggest you buy the house that you had your heart on, and in addition to 5 years severance, we'll buy you out of the investment contract we had agreed. 30 to 40% of a $100 million partnership for $30 million in today's dollars to be agreed. Now that's what I would have done had I been in your shoes. What I did receive, however, was an unfriendly, strongly worded email from you telling me how employable I am and that I should not look to you for any significant financial help in the future. To add insult to injury, you then implore me to please delete the emails regarding your STD, your request that I provide you antibiotics that you can surreptitiously give to Melinda as the description of your genitals. You also made it clear to me that I am not to refer to redacted, as that is another topic that must remain between the two of us. In return for all of these requests, I would have done without a second thought. I am not to attend meetings with Melinda. I should continue to provide you the same level of service and dedication that I've done so diligently until you are ready to discard me and our friendship. And this is in response to a letter from Bill, it looks like. I have decided to resign my position effective immediately. I have not come to this decision quickly or without a great deal of thought. During the past few weeks, I've been caught up with severe marital dispute between Melinda and Bill. I have the greatest respect for my friend of 7 years, wish them both well. Thought that I would be given a new position. I feel it would be dishonest to myself in the future, from helping Bill get drugs to help order a deal with the consequence of intercourse with Russian girls, to facilitating his illicit trysts with married women, to being asked to provide Adderall for bridge tournaments, as I am a medical doctor but have no prescription writing ability. So I don't really know where that letter came from. But anyways, that's the letter. And Bill and Melinda are both out now responding to this. And Bill and Melinda said the following. Here's Melinda. She was on an NPR podcast called Wildcard, and she was explaining her reaction to that letter, which has now been released in the Epstein files. Here was Melinda on NPR.
The emails in the files suggest that Bill Gates had additional affairs and that he tried to get medication to treat a sexually transmitted infection and that he was going to give you the medicine without you knowing. His representative has said all of this is false. It is not on you to have to respond to the details of that alleged behavior, but I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad, just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? And again, I'm able to take my own sadness and look at those young girls and say, my God, how did that happen to those girls, right? And so for me, it's just sadness for, I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth, right? And it's kind of like, at least for me, I've been able to move on in life.
And get out of the blast zone. But she was in that social circle for quite a long time. But Bill was out, and Bill was explaining that none of this is true. I regret it, and so on. Here's Bill Gates in response.
No doubt seen the allegations, including some of them from the last 24 to 48 hours. Are they true?
No, apparently Jeffrey wrote an email to himself. That email was never sent. The email is false. So I don't know what his thinking was there. Was he trying to attack me in some way? But, it just reminds me, every minute I spent with him, I regret and I, apologize that I did that.
The problem is some of the things that he has sent and some of the information about other people that has come up in those files has been true.
Corroborated.
Why would he do this and say this about you, do you think?
It's factually true that I was only at dinners. I never went to the island. I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
Is it frustrating to you, given what you've said, that this is now happening?
Not really. I mean, people should
Yes, it is.
hold people who are successful to a very high bar. And so, it's as these documents come out, they're going to be closely scrutinized.
Okay.
All right, so that's the family over there, the Incestuous family responding to this. And it just continues on. You can see that even Obama apparently may have been a beneficiary of Epstein's. Pretty wild. Zero Hedge, you know them, said the man who shockingly awarded the newly elected Obama the Nobel Peace Prize in 2009, remember that? Obama's like blowing up half the planet, who was the chair of the Nobel Committee from 2009 to 15, was an Epstein Island regular. The whole system. This guy, Thorbjørn Jagland, is a Norwegian politician who served as the chairman of the Nobel Committee, during which he gave Obama the Nobel Prize. He was the first chair of the committee's history to be demoted from the position, remaining a member until 15. And the other guy who was highly involved in all of this is, of course, Reid Hoffman. And Reid Hoffman is in panic mode now. He says, I only knew Epstein because of the fundraising relationship with MIT. That's all. Yeah, I just needed to raise money, which I very much regret. In 2019, I told Axios the last meeting I had with him in 15, but I was mistaken. As according to calendar entries, I become aware there were additional fundraising meetings in 16 and 18. The slow drip. These were all coordinated with this person who was the director of MIT. We had a meeting in Cambridge. We had Skype calls. I've done multiple calendar searches for my criminal activity, and if I find any other meetings, I'll share them with you so that you can indict me. The victims in this vile action deserve all the information they can get, and of course, we're seeing a lot of people not buying it at all. They say these meetings were all coordinated by Joe. That's weird, because I have emails that are directly here between Reid and Epstein, and there is no third-party intermediary here. That's interesting. It says, hey, Reid, liar. You also met with him before the April 29, 16 dinner where Larry Summers was also present, and it appears you left your passport in the gift bag that you gave Epstein. Yay! We would love to get it back. Thank you so much for letting me know, says some assistant somewhere. Please tell Reid that I have his passport found in the gift bag that they had given to me from Epstein. I will bring it with me on Friday. That's great. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Had wonder where it had flown to. Thanks. Also, why is his passport in a gift bag? What the hell? But Todd Blanche was out. He says, it's not a crime to party with Jeffrey Epstein. If you want to do that, you're allowed to do that. All right, here's Todd.
Well, some of the people we saw on camera at the rallies. Is there any chance that any of these individuals who partied with Epstein and engaged, relations with minors will be prosecuted?
Well,
Any
look,
chance?
I'll never say no. And
But the answer is no, just to be perfectly clear about that.
we will always investigate any evidence of misconduct. But as you know, it is not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. And so as horrible as it's not a crime to email with Mr.
Depends what that party is there, Todd. It probably is a crime to party with Epstein in some capacity.
Epstein. And some of these men may have done horrible things. And if we have evidence that allows us to prosecute them, you better believe we will. But it's also the kind of thing that the American people need to understand, that it isn't a crime to party with Mr. Epstein. It isn't a crime to have
Didn't look like that's all that was going on some of those photos.
That's right,
if
Laura.
the photos could speak, some of them look pretty bad.
That's right. And unfortunately, photos can't speak. And so we need witnesses and we need
Are there
evidence
videotapes that you all have? Or well, some of the people.
It's all been released according to them there, Laura. But you remember emails like this that have shown up in the files that make your skin crawl. It says, from the Epstein files, the sender here is Epstein's longtime live-in girlfriend and secretary, 2013. From Karina, copying Jeffrey, sending an email to somebody else. Karina says, I am getting more ice creams. And Susan Hamblin, I will be sending, she said, fresh muffins down with Karina. You currently have 2 steaks left on the island. Would you like new ones? Do you think they're talking about ribeyes? Do you think they're talking about fillets? Is this a grocery shopping list? I don't think so. So it certainly sounds like they're speaking in code. So if they're partying with steaks and ice creams, that may not just be a barbecue. We also had the president who was out here talking about this yesterday, and here is what he said in response to a question from the press.
Today we heard that the Clintons set deposition dates to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Any reaction to that related to the Epstein?
I think it's a shame, to be honest. I always liked him. Her, yeah. She's a very capable woman. She was better in debating than some of the other people, I will tell you that. She was smart woman. I hate to see it in many ways. I hate to see it. But, then I look at me. They went after me like, they wanted me to go to jail for the rest of my life. Then it turned out I was innocent. Very innocent.
All right, so yeah, disgusting things out there, and JD is exactly right. It's one disgusting elite that we have in charge of a lot of things, and we're very glad that the public is keeping the pressure on them. JD Vance also putting the pressure on Prince Andrew, one of the main culprits of this whole thing, royalty, who was apparently into some very, very criminal activities.